You may realize that I am in a different setting. I'm in a weird place today. I'm not in a normal place at all. I'm actually in the back of my truck. Other platforms and Patreon will all have information as to why I am doing that and why this episode is the way that it is. Otherwise, you can stick around and subscribe and pay attention to when I put out my full length episode next, and that will have a whole bunch of personal updates at the end of it. So you can look for that, or you can find me on Patreon or on other platforms if you are interested as to why I'm recording in the woods. Otherwise, welcome just to another episode of Little Lore, a show from where the streetlights end, where I tell you a little bit about whatever monster I think is cool this week. That monster can be from folklore, from fiction, or even from history. Today, I'll be telling you about an amusing and chaotic little bastard called Spring-Heeled Jack. Like and share the video, comment below, and subscribe for more of the same sort of thing. So the Victorian era in Europe saw a rise of intellectualism among the common folk. A huge cultural shift occurred during this time, and we now refer to it as the Enlightenment. During this age of the Enlightenment, the populace of the continent was moving away from superstition and showing much greater interest in a more methodical and methodical understanding of the world. People were meeting in coffee and tea shops to discuss politics, the global economy, and science. It was becoming a time of scientific inquiry, pompous intellectualism, and disdain for the old, outdated beliefs in ghost stories, monsters, and witchcraft. But, with these stories and folk traditions so deeply ingrained in the cultures of Europe, no amount of guffawing over a fancy brewed drink could truly overpower those superstitions which made the people of Britain who they are. Many old school beliefs in the paranormal still linger in the backs of people's minds today, and back then in the 17th and 18th centuries, it was still definitely going strong, no matter how fancy they wanted themselves to be. One of the most dominant and honestly pretty entertaining examples of these folkloric preoccupations is that of Spring-Heeled Jack, or sometimes just called Springy Jack. A certain character with a very distinct image was popular in the penny dreadful magazines that were circulating during this time period. As I describe him, I bet that you'll get a pretty accurate image of him in your mind without a lot of effort. So, this guy has a prominent goatee, like in cartoons. Like, let me put my mic down. Like, you know what I mean? The goatee is long and pointed forward. He has brightly glowing or flashing eyes. If you meet his gaze in the night, they flash with a little shiny light like a nocturnal animal in the glow of your flashlight. If you've seen that, you've been camping, right? Spring-Heeled Jack's hair is slicked back over pointed ears, and sometimes there are even small horns on his head. He wears dark but dapper clothing, and often a long coat or cape that flows behind him. I bet you know the kind of guy I'm talking about. Sort of the quintessential cartoon devil character, right? As is the case with almost every creature or being from folklore or from mythology, versions of Spring-Heeled Jack vary quite a bit. But after stories of his antics grew in popularity, the way that people imagined or described him began to sort of homogenize into a rather uniform depiction. Although it took some time for his physical appearance to reach a consensus among the people, his behavior was always described in the same way. It was always reported that he would jump or leap to inhuman heights or distances, which is why he was named Spring-Heeled Jack. He got springy heels. He's springing around. He would spring from rooftop to rooftop, or go bounding over trees, hedges, or other objects that jut into the sky across the landscape. Good old Springy Jack was often seen as a shadowy figure in the night, bouncing around the city like a freaky little flea man. But why does he bounce around on the rooftops in the night? Many reports of his antics paint him as a rather chaotic figure and honestly a menace to society. That is, it seems like one of his greatest motivations for leaping around all willy-nilly is just mischief. It's for pranks, bro. It is said that he is always cackling or laughing in the night. He enjoys flapping his arms like a bird or whipping his cape around frantically. He is said to laugh and yowl as he knocks over barrels, tugs on people's clothes, or throws things around before leaping away into the shadows. Some say that he can shoot fire from his mouth, and would often do so to surprise and confuse those who met eyes with him. Some people describe him as more enigmatic and mysterious, but elusive. Some describe him as malicious or evil, having been sent from hell to terrorize good Christian people. But most people believe him to simply be mischievous and a sort of creepy pain in the ass. The majority of reports in which people have claimed to meet Spring-Heeled Jack were made around the decade of the 1880s, and were made mostly around Great Britain. Reports poured in from all over the area, often around London, but also from around Scotland and Liverpool. Often, after one person announced that they had seen him, many more reported sightings would come flooding in within the following few weeks. Classic. This is a trend that is seen often throughout history, especially regarding superstitions and paranormal phenomena. This particular trend is attributed to mass hysteria, and is the same sort of phenomenon that we've seen regarding other creatures like werewolves, fairies, and witches. Sadly, most of the reported sightings of Spring-Heeled Jack are just as reliable as those of other spooky entities. Which means not very reliable. The earliest surviving record of a Spring-Heeled Jack sighting took place in September of 1837. This sighting was reported by a man who was walking along through London one night, and he claimed that while he was walking near a cemetery, a noticeably muscular man with pointed ears leaped smoothly and suddenly over the cemetery's fence and landed directly in front of him in the road. The mysterious man, with a jump like a man-sized grasshopper, supposedly carried on through the night without causing any trouble for the startled onlooker. He apparently pulled off his truly amazing feat of physical prowess and simply walked on forward into the darkness without paying any mind at all to the man who made the report. This may have been quite lucky for him, because many of the sightings which followed included stories of Jack attacking people, or at least pestering them in some way. He was often reported as harassing people and causing problems of every sort that you can imagine. For example, just a month after this first sighting was publicized, a woman claimed to have run into a fella of the same description, who then grabbed her and forcibly kissed her on the face. This poor woman was sexually assaulted by some sort of supernatural entity, which I'm sure most people would agree cannot be a pleasant experience. Have you ever been essayed by a paranormal creature? Let me know in the comments down below. Although, I'd rather not make light of such a thing if it did happen. Because if there was really some, like, if there really was some weird buff dude, right, running around causing havoc, and it wasn't a supernatural being, it was just some guy, then this guy is a friggin' predator, right? He's not just like a menace or a nuisance, he's a predator if he starts doing that to people's faces, you know. Just saying. Sightings of Spring-Heeled Jack fluctuated in frequency over the many years that followed, but he became popular again in the 1900s. Witnesses have claimed to have spotted him in Sheffield in the 1970s, and there was another sighting reported as recently as 1986. Jeez, that's still 40 years ago. Where's he at? Where's that Spring-Heeled Jack? Bring him back. It's boring over here. Many have hypothesized about who or what Spring-Heeled Jack is, or what he was, perhaps. No one has ever really agreed on anything that makes sense, but some of the ideas are a lot of fun. For example, one popular explanation for Spring-Heeled Jack is aliens. Yes, some people believe that this inhuman ability to jump so unbelievably high with very little effort is evidence that he's accustomed to a place with much stronger gravity than Earth. That is, they believe that he is an extraterrestrial alien who came to our planet from somewhere else, which has a much greater gravitational pull than our own planet, and therefore It's almost an accident that he flies so high into the air when he jumps. I love it. On his own planet, that would be a normal jump of regular height. Makes sense in that regard, I suppose, right? It's like in Dragon Ball Z when they train in those pods where they can adjust the gravity and then they come out super buff because they turn the gravity up really high. You know what I mean. If you know, you know. Another common belief is that Spring-Heeled Jack was once a powerful trickster god who was revered among a religion now long forgotten. I like this one too. Without his worshippers granting him power, he has only retained a small amount of his original ability. He now wanders the earth spreading chaos and misfortune, just as he did in his era of greatness, but without the power he once had. So all he can really do now is jump around, scare people, and cause minor inconveniences. Maybe do some schmexual assaulting, I guess. Many people believe that he is a demon or an evil spirit that arrives on Earth for unknown reasons to carry out some series of deeds for a greater malicious purpose. A more practical theory, and the one that I actually believe is the most fun, is that Spring-Heeled Jack was a nobleman who lived in the area in the 1880s. His well-groomed goatee and high-class manner of dress, including the cape, indicate that if he were an actual living man, he was relatively wealthy. It is believed that this man simply thought it was fun to dress up and harass people because it was funny and he was bored. So, in my mind, so Gilmore Girls, right? Rory's boyfriend in college, Logan, that's kind of who I'm imagining. A rich guy who's just a little, like, bored. So bored that he has to cause some mischief. It's Logan. Sorry if that went over your head. I don't know how many of my viewers are also Gilmore Girls fans. Probably not a lot. Anyway, maybe this guy, this nobleman, liked to drink and he had nothing much going on in his own life, so startling, confusing, and pestering people, then running away was his favorite pastime. Meaning that he was just an asshole. And that's hilarious to me. Unless he was essaying people, like that one lady who reported running into him said. That's not funny. Still, the prevailing theory is that Spring-Heeled Jack is simply a case of mass hysteria caused by social stress, and that sightings of him increase during times of major social change. That happens with lots of folkloric creatures. As it turns out, an influx of sightings of cryptids or uh, extraterrestrials or anything spooky, or especially a new one popping up in folklore, common stories, is usually coincides with social change or social stress. Lots of it occurs during times of plague, times of war, times of economic depression. I wonder if we'll get some cool stories, some cool spooky stories out of this current period of time that we are in. I hope so. Anyway, there you have a little rundown of a neat-ass supernatural entity known as Spring-Heeled Jack. Have you ever seen anything that could have been him? You know, like some dark figure bounding around on the rooftops at night? Tell me what you think in the comments below so we can actually have a conversation about this weirdo, because I love him. I want to be him when I grow up. Please like the video if you enjoy what I do because it helps me a lot, and subscribe for more folklore, horror, and history from me. I've got a Patreon I'll link below if you want to join and support me while also getting to access personal updates, additional content, polls, and sometimes giveaways of neat things that I make all by myself. Until next time, nerds. And I would also like to thank my fantastic patrons. I'll shout you out by name after my long video whenever I get that up. I love you and stuff.